This was another blood sample we took from that same guy immediately after I'd finished my 10 minutes. If this showed up and this was the result of all of the work I did, I would have stopped 20 years ago. This is disaster. This is a process known as rouleau, where all of the blood cells stack upon each other like a pile of coins. When you consider that a healthy blood cell has to fold itself in half to get through some of the smaller capillaries in the body, there is no way these clumps of blood are going to be able to deliver the nutrients to the body. So the body is exhausted. If you have chronic fatigue, your blood will look like that. The blood cannot, because there's no chi, there's no life force, it's all gone clumpy, cannot deliver the goodies. So if that was the outcome of a clearing, they would have probably dragged me away and put me up against a wall a long time ago, because this is not good at all. What we realised, of course, was happening, and we'd seen this in Kirlian photography as well, after acupuncture, that after a treatment, and a treatment is simply where a system, an energetic system, your body, is placed in a more coherent environment for a short period of time. When your system is placed into a coherent environment, it will come back into balance. Nothing to be done. You don't have to do anything. I don't have to do anything as long as I represent a more coherent environment. If I were in chaos, then I can't support that person unless I do something. And because I don't want to do anything, I have to do the work on me before I can become available for anybody else or any other environment. So we'd seen this before. What I've since come to believe is that the degree of chaos that exists in your body, because of perceptions, because of conditioning, because of addictive patterns that you have gotten yourself into subconsciously, so therefore you keep recreating chaos, to the degree the system's in chaos, when it's put in a peaceful place, the energy system collapses. It's like all of the cells let out a collective sigh and relax. If you're a workaholic and you go away to the mountains or the beach for a holiday, you might spend the first 4 or 5 days in bed. It's exactly what's happening. Your system has been taken out of a chaotic environment, put into a more balanced environment, and finds more peace. And everything relaxes, of course. What we were interested in was 15 minutes later, another blood sample to see if there'd been any change. And that was 15 minutes later. The blood is looking very good. The guy has gone through his period of exhaustion, and the blood cells have recovered, and recovered in a way that's much more healthy, much more balanced. With this particular guy, he came back a week later and we tested his blood again before we did any work, and this was holding. That's the key. Can we get this to hold? In order to get it to hold, of course, if you're going to be able to bring change around in the environment that's going to support change in the individual, that's what I was doing. And I'm sure a lot of you are doing that as well. But then I realised that if we don't work on the individual as well, then we could be throwing all of our work away and get labelled as an inferior consultant until number 33 on the list shows up and can fix things. But of course, number 33 isn't fixing things any more than number 1 did. It's just that the client is finally ready to accept some responsibility and change for themselves. Most people are unaware that they're creating their environment. They're unaware that the way they view their environment is a product of their past. They get locked into certain ways of being and doing things because of childhood conditioning, and can't change. So the body becomes used to certain patterns. It's like you put on a pair of sunglasses and you see life through those sunglasses. You see everybody else through the sunglasses of your own conditioning, of your own perceptions when you were conditioned as a child. So you really don't have too much choice. A lot of the work that I'm looking at now is based on the studies from Bruce Lipton, a cellular biologist, and he believes that most people only have about 2.5%, 3% choice in any situation. We're already conditioned to perceive situations in a very, very limited way by our conditioning in early childhood. So we cannot experience life in its fullness if we've been conditioned to deny that. We don't even know that is a possibility. And so change then becomes a very difficult thing. If you've only got 2.5% of your awareness to make a change, then you might want to start thinking about how you use that 2.5%. Because if you use it to bring about more positive, balanced energy internally, then you might increase that 2.5 to 3%. You might become more aware. You might create, on a cellular level, less addiction, because if you create on a cellular level less addiction, when those cells divide, they've got less receptor sites on them for the addictive old ways of being, and therefore they've got more room on them for new receptor sites, different receptor sites, more healthy receptor sites. But it requires a certain sense of awareness, certain mindfulness, a certain way of looking at yourself, which is very, very difficult if you're lost in your own drama. So you get someone to come along, some Feng Shui expert, some space clearing person, whatever, to help you on the journey, to help create a space to allow change to occur. But if you don't actually work with the person, then you're going to have problems because the old patterning will come back again. If this guy went home, back to a family that's in chaos, a job that's in chaos, and a family home environment that's in chaos, pretty soon his blood will reflect that chaos. So he's going to need to spend more and more time in a more coherent environment. The problem at the moment, as I see it, is that we don't have enough role models around holding that space to allow enough change to occur. Imagine what would happen in your lives if you went home from this one-day program event, if you had no judgment whatsoever left in your body. No judgment. There is no good, there is no bad, no self-judgment, no judgment of others, no judgment of the railway system, no judgment of the weather. No judgment. Most people would see that as giving over their power, handing something away, because getting mad is getting even. But if no one had judgment, then no one would see judgment, no one would give energy to judgment, no one would create judgment. Then imagine the world you'd live in if that didn't arise anymore. And that can happen if you begin to take some responsibility, to begin to notice what's happening to you, how you're feeling, how you're reacting to situations, and you recognize that when you react to a situation, all that is happening is that old memories as receptor sites on the cell are being triggered. When those receptor sites are triggered, the brain creates chemicals, neuropeptides, which are converted into amino acids through the hypothalamus, which flood the body, which give you pathology of feeling, of an emotion. So by your focusing your awareness on a physical problem or a emotional problem, you actually create the chemicals that make that problem real. As you think, so you become. Nothing new. So you might want to think next time you have a negative thought where next time you get lost in anxiety, in anger, in frustration or depression, that the more you throw the spotlight of your awareness on that particular emotion, the more you're going to create it in your body, the more it's going to become a physical reality. And of course, when it becomes a physical reality, you have to deal with it. That's when you have to start spending money. Come to another workshop. Buy more drugs, buy more alcohol, run away. But then, of course, the women don't run away, they sit around drinking tea and... But when you recognize that you can do this for yourself, I mean, I don't have all the slides, I know I only have a very short period of time here, but you can do this for yourself by stopping for a moment, by noticing your thoughts, by noticing your feelings, by not giving energy to what you might have considered to be negative thoughts, negative emotions. Change your mind. Look out the window, if you've got one. Listen to music. Do whatever it takes when you begin to change your mind. Ask to release the stress from the day. Sit. Notice what arises, but to the best of your ability, which will be limited by your cellular memory, to the best of your ability, stop feeding that condition and do not judge it. It is not good or bad. It is only your perceptions, your history, your personal history, your value judgments that say this is good, this is bad. I like this, I don't like that. When it's just information, it's just energy arising, you stop feeding it, it stops manifesting. But don't believe a word I say, because I haven't got a clue what's going on. Try it for yourself. I've been told to do this. For those of you interested in Feng Shui, this book, and dowsing of course, this book covers my early years of looking at the environment, the individual in the environment, the relationship we have, how the environment affects us and how we affect the environment. That's what that one's all about. A lot of this stuff I've been talking about, the blood work, etc., is in this book, the second one I wrote. This one is very much about how we create the world we live in, why we continue to create it, even though it might be killing us, and what to do about it. And the third one, First Aid, A Guide to Greater Health and Happiness, is exactly what it says. It's a guide. It's something you can read, some exercises in it to practice, to help you become more mindful, more aware, more at peace within, so that you are more at peace when you go out and see a client. Because if you show up in chaos, then you've got to be a good technician if you want to bring harmony. I stopped even attempting to be a technician many, many years ago and recognized that it was up to me to bring me into balance. If I wanted to see change in the world, I had to be that change. I had to live that change. It's not the easiest journey. It certainly wasn't for me. I spent most of my life running away from it. But as I've got closer and closer, it's become more and more effortless, which allows me now just to show up at a house, or even not show up if I, and yawn for a few minutes. Think of a good story to justify my check and go home. So that's what's going on there. And we also have down the back a sign-up sheet if you want to get the newsletter I send out once a month. Or if you're interested in a workshop, of course, if you want me to come back to England, or you prefer to come to France, or even Italy if you've got next week off. And that's about it, I think. I could go on, of course. When I first started teaching my first one-day workshop, I didn't sleep for 3 days, and my stomach was in a knot, wondering what I was going to talk about. And now I can go on for 9 days without repeating myself too much.